Have you ever found yourself avoiding intimacy? Not because you don't love your partner, but because your body just says, not tonight, again? Or maybe you felt shame creep in when you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror, or guilt for wanting more connection, more pleasure, more you. If that hit a nerve, you are so not alone. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming. I'm your host, Alysia Lyons, mom, author, and coach. Around here, we talk about the real stuff moms carry. And today we're having a conversation that's long overdue. I'm joined by Pauline Ryeland, also known as the Intimacy Whisperer. She's a sex, intimacy, and libido coach who helps individuals and couples navigate everything from trauma and body shame to desire and connection after kids. In this episode, we dive into why libido often disappears after kids and how to get it back, the truth about body image and sex, and what healthy consent looks like, how to reconnect with your partner and yourself, even if it's been months or years. This one's vulnerable, eye-opening, and incredibly validating. Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we're actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can all still be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it.
Really nice to be here.
Absolutely.
So tell us the world.
Yes, we are on opposite ends. It's 5 p.m. my time. What is it, like 10:30 in the morning for you?
10ish in the morning for me, and moving into autumn to winter, so it's getting a little bit cooler now as well.
Yeah, and we're starting to warm up, so we are absolutely on the opposite side of the globe.
Then it's
So
okay.
tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my business is Intimacy Whisperer, and I work as an intimacy, sex, and libido coach and educator. And I utilize the practices of NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming. So that's working with the subconscious to bring about the change on the conscious level. A tantra teacher and educator, somatic sexological body worker, which is a combination of tantra and mindfulness and yoga and a few different things. And then I'm a Havening trauma specialist as well, which is an American training for trauma. So I just sort of blend all of that into my practice. I work with singles and couples. I specialise as a libido coach, firing up that mojo again. Work with women around sexual trauma, any trauma really. Loss of libido, not orgasming or only orgasming sometimes, and internal pain. Get rid of the internal pain. With men, I work with all the erectile challenges that they can experience, low libido as well, loss of testosterone, prostate issues, Peyronie's disease. So really just looking at what problems are getting in the way of them having a really amazing experience, the sex life or connection with their partner if they're in a relationship.
Just kind of all things, yeah, in a nutshell, just kind of all things sex.
Pretty much. But I think the beauty about my work is that, we can do the somatic based practices and start changing how we hold things in our body and recreating those neurological pathways. But if we don't address what's going on in the headspace and the mindset, it's not going to last. We have to address it. So I sort of like come in at it from all different angles.
Yeah. Yeah, our minds are very powerful machines that are programmed to keep us safe emotionally and physically. And especially you mentioned sexual trauma, like that can create wreak a lot of havoc, I would imagine that.
Yeah, even any trauma, or even just if you're experiencing anxiety,
Mhm.
whether you know why or not, it still can get in the way and interfere, definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do notice a lot in just, Facebook stalking different mom groups or whatnot. And there's always someone who's asking about like, their partner wanting to be intimate and them not wanting to, or vice versa. And I have to say that I think we just started the ninth, or we're in the ninth season of this podcast, and you're my first to talk about this topic. So
Wow. So I feel very privileged. Excuse me, but I have a very itchy nose for some reason. So I
absolutely.
apologize. I don't know what's going on there. Oh
Yeah,
dear, I've had hay fever. That might be part of it. I'll
yeah.
try not to scratch.
No worries. I think it's appropriate to say you're popping my cherry on on this topic.
Good. This is great. And I love doing these podcasts because everyone comes at it in a slightly different angle and perspective from where you're at. So whilst some of the basics of what I talk about is the same, we do often go off in really different topics and directions. And I'm sort of up for that because I'm really about just keeping the conversations going, and hopefully people learn things along the way as well.
Yeah. I'll speak from my experience with
Yeah.
with talking about sex and sex in relationships, that I grew up in a Christian household, and it was very much like you wait until you get married, which I did not. And then once I did get married, I still didn't really enjoy it because it still felt like it was wrong for
Yeah.
years, for so many years.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know that I ever got coaching because I'm NLP certified also. And I don't think I ever got coaching around it. I think it just kind of went away. It did kind of go away on its own.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably doesn't work.
yeah, but I will say, like, there was recently my partner and I, we talked about I would initiate or invite us to, have sex, and I would always I would say it and then I would qualify why. Like I had to justify why I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Because
know even like I'm fumbling over my language because sex is kind of a taboo
yeah.
topic, and yeah.
But great catch that you would sort of be trying to justify why you're wanting it. That's definitely a great catch. So well done
Yeah.
in that respect.
He caught it.
Well done to you.
Yeah. And then once he caught it, I was like, then I would catch myself. If I felt like I wanted to justify it, it's like, I don't need to justify it. I want to have sex right
Go.
now, so let's
Yeah.
do it.
Go. Yeah. Yeah. Green
Yeah.
light. Yeah.
And I know that, in previous relationships, a lot of times I've felt, and I know other women have felt like body shamed,
Yeah.
by their partner. Is that something that you have supported couples through?
Oh, 100%. Look, there's lots of reasons why women don't want to have sex, and that can definitely be one of them if they've been body shamed, or even if they're not being body shamed, but it's still just really self-conscious about their body. I sort of I do a little bit of a tongue in cheek in one of my talks when I do presentations, and I go, maybe you don't want to get on top because everything's going to be jiggling and rattling around, and you're self-conscious about your body. And I just go, trust me, if you've got a guy underneath you, he is not going to be worried about that. He's going to be very, very happy. Everyone has a bit of a giggle, but it's actually true. They don't see that as an issue. It's how we hold ourselves. So one of the big issues that I work with women is around their self-love and self-value, and um, all of that aspect, and sort of clean that up through belief system changes, which we do with NLP, because we have to, feel comfortable in our skins and love ourselves so that we can become empowered in our sexual expression and who we are as a sexual woman.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that is the one of the most natural things that we can do. We are here to procreate, and it's fun. And we've shamed it. And I like, you're obviously not in the United States, so I can ask you, like, is there a difference in different countries, that like, do you work specifically with people in the United States or other countries specifically because they're more closed up about it?
Oh, look, I work with people everywhere. Obviously, my biggest target, my biggest audience rather, is Australia. But I've worked with people. I've worked with quite a few people in New York. I've worked with quite a few people in like New Zealand and UK and um, an unusual country in Europe. Can't remember where it was now. It was a long time ago. So I work with people really anywhere. I don't think it's sort of just that there's a closed off issue in the States. It's also here. Look, when I first started this work 14 years ago, and I would brazenly walk into business networking events, with all the corporates and whatever, and they go, "What do you do?" And they'd be like shock registering because it was, and I definitely was pushing buttons and I was aware of it. And I sort of went away one day and went, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this," because I was triggering people. And I sat with it and I'm like, well, what if I don't do this, what am I going to do? And I really sat with it and I was, no, this is my calling. This has come in for a reason. Don't know how long I'm going to do it for, but this is a reason. So if I'm triggering something with someone, it's actually their issue. It's not my issue. So just put on that brave face and keep going. So I'm really glad I did because I know I've worked with thousands and thousands of people and made phenomenal differences in people's lives, not just intimately and sexually, but just in generally, because from whatever traumas or other things that they've carried has impacted their relationships. So I think 16 years ago it was pretty taboo. I think it's definitely more and more open now. Um, Definitely more open. And I would say that's probably across the board around the world, really, just the way things have moved.
Yeah, things have opened quite a bit
Yeah.
in the last 20, 40, 60 years or so. But a girlfriend of mine we became friends at work and we were worked for a call center and she would sit next to me and she'd put her hand on my thigh. I'm on a phone call. She'd put her hand on my thigh and she'd run her hand up my thigh and she'd just whisper sex and watch my face turn beet red, like just to get a rise out of me. And just to be funny, like, and it was I will never forget her for that reason.
And
Uh,
that at the same time could have been really triggering for you as well.
yeah, I mean, had
And
I had it's something that I've really done some soul searching on because the Me Too movement happened, a few years ago. And there was a slogan that it's like, it's not every man, but it is every woman. And I really struggled with that inclusivity because I hadn't experienced sexual trauma
yeah,
in the context that they're talking about. And there's the sex shaming and the making it quiet, like that obviously my whole life it's taboo, we don't talk about it. But there was even somebody in my church that was an older man and he was married for years. And we went to their house, another friend of mine, and she and I were 16 years old. And we were like the servers, the waiters at their party. And he touched her inappropriately. And I've been around that man, I don't know how many times, but I asked my mom, I was like, what, how come nobody does anything about this guy? Like, I don't understand. And she's like, everybody knew about it. I just kept you away from him. And it's just,
accept it, but not done anything about it. And that's the thing. People turn a blind eye. Um, and
it's kind of like everybody has a funny uncle. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
but it's not okay. And so this is what at least one good thing is that that's come out about that it's not acceptable and it's not okay. And it can be so subtle and coercive. And there's things that I work on principle of. Betty Martin, who's American, who does Wheel of Consent, and she talks about consent from um, the shadow, which is the dark side, and from the light side. And the shadow side is where you're subtly manipulated and maneuvered into doing things that you're not really aware that it's actually happening. And as a young woman, you don't have power to say, "I don't like that. I'm not comfortable," because you're shy or whatever.
Mhm.
And so you endure. So there's a lot of that goes on. So it's really about, helping women that have been through that, apart from the havening, which really releases the emotional trauma around it and unlocks the flight, fight, freeze mode in the amygdala in the brain. It's about teaching women how to find their voice and be empowered and be able to put boundaries in place, and find their voice. And a lot of women don't. So it's just depending on each woman's situation, I guess.
Yeah. I do appreciate I appreciate the movement, and with everything it kind of started like the snake started to eat its own tail with it, and it started to be used as a weapon against men, which, I don't approve of that either. Like I don't approve of it being used as a weapon on either side. Like we need to have more
It's just about
equality.
having more awareness
Yeah.
and standing up for what's right,
Mhm.
and grooming of kids and doing any sort of thing that's going to harm a woman is just not okay. And yes, it happens to men as well, but the stats are higher for it impacting women. I've
It's
definitely
so
worked with
it's
men
so
that have.
interesting because I did also grow up, my husband and I were the same age, so we grew up at this in the same time period, and he would go to parties and he would, fool around with a girl, and she'd say no to having sex, and then he'd back off. And then later on, many years later, they'd meet up again. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I always had a crush on you." And he's just like, "Well, why'd you say no?" And she goes, "Because I wanted you to fight for it, or I wanted you to work for it, or something along those lines." And it's like, okay, but I told my son, who's 13 years old, I said, if a woman says no, that means no. Do not ask again until like another time period. Like you need a
Yeah,
clear consent nowadays. I don't want things to happen to him now either.
no, that's right. It's 100%. It's about teaching that consent. And, I see things all the time. I just go, oh, like where people you don't know come up and give you a hug. And they're just meeting. It's like, I don't. Sometimes I don't. I'm okay with it, and sometimes I'm not. It's like I don't know you from diddly squat. You don't have the right to
Mhm.
give me a kiss on the cheek just because I've met you on a coffee date. Like, and that
Yeah.
happens, and guys just don't realize it. So it's about just being really clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's definitely some social norms that need to be not normalized any longer.
Is it okay if I give you a hug? Oh, it's really nice to meet you. Is it okay if I give you a hug? Should be part of the norm. I said, oh, hi, hug.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
someone that's had trauma is just going to freeze. It's not going to be comfortable for them at all. But
Yeah.
people don't have that understanding. And so it should be more normalized. Hey, nice to meet you. Can I have a hug? And ask. It's not a big deal. You can say yes or no. But people make a big deal out of it. I used to go to these parties. They were called cuddle parties back in the day. In a few, where you'd just be lying in a heap cuddling people, but there was rules. And so
Yeah.
we'd sit around in a circle and we'd go through the rules, and it would be if you ask someone for a hug and they say no, it's a full stop. You don't go, oh, why not? It's a
Right.
no. If
Mhm.
you ask someone if I can hug you, and it's a non-sexual thing. So if you find as a guy you're getting aroused from the hug, roll over or say I'm complete, get up and walk away, because it's not about that.
Right.
And it was like, oh, can I hug you and touch your arm? You can go, yeah. But if you start going up here, then that's a no, because you only asked to touch the arm. You didn't ask to go up here. So there
Yeah.
was very set rules. And so you'd go through these rules, and we'd have these little activities and games that we would play where we would feel into our yeses and our nos and ask questions and get you to say yes, so you can recognize saying yes and how icky it felt to say yes to something that you did not want. So we did all these little games at first and then reverse it with no's. And then we do things energetically, walking towards one person and going stop or keep coming or go back, because we're just tuning into each other. So we did all these really cool activities first to start recognizing, and then be like, okay, cuddles on. Everyone would be like, but then there'd be this big mosh pit of people just cuddled in and just cuddling in, and it'd just be like, oh my God, it was so blissful. It was so heaven, because you knew you were safe.
Mhm.
It was really beautiful to actually do that. But they've since died. But Back in the day, we used to do that quite a lot. So, oh, cuddle party. Yep, I'll do an hour and a half drive to Brisbane to go for that.
Hmm.
It's fun because there was rules.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I can see how that could how that could be really nourishing and how
so
it could
nice and
be also
healing.
very awkward.
Yeah, and it was almost like you go through the rules and go, okay, well, I might be in the middle of a mosh cuddle pit, but if anybody needs me, you come and get me. Like I can pull out anywhere because if someone's having a moment, or I can pull up some issues, or there's could be some tears or emotions that come up, you could get triggered. I'm here. I'm available 100%, even if I'm in the middle of a smosh pit, having a great cuddle. I'll leave because my priority is holding space and looking out for you and seeing what your needs are and helping you meet your needs. So it was very good when they were happening, actually.
Is there a piece of advice that you want to share with moms who are perhaps in a situation where they're not getting their needs met in sexually inside of the relationship?
Yeah, I think communication is still key. Like maybe they're not getting a sexual needs met. Maybe they're not wanting to have sex because they've got so many demands on them, or maybe it's the opposite. So it's about having those conversations, and sometimes it's about bringing the intimacy back in, and maybe putting aside the sex, the penetrative sex, putting that to one side and just focusing on connection and intimacy and building that. And it can start with non-sexual and then building into sexual. So it's like I have some couples that haven't been together for years but wanting to get back together and are open to it. And I go, well, how about you just have a pash session? Like when you were dating, you just have a pash. I don't know if you know what that is. A kissing session. It's an
Making out,
emotional
yeah.
session. So having a kissing session, like a make-out session where you're just kissing and
Yeah.
enjoying the kissing, and know that that's the rule. We're only kissing. It's not going to go to playing with my breasts or diving down to my genitals. It's just kissing. Do that for half an hour. See how that goes. And then you can start building on that. Or just lay there and just want to have a cuddle. Just cuddle. There's boundaries. We're just cuddling, non-sexual. And then you can move it to sexual when you're ready. So just pulling it all back and letting go of the expectation of having the sex and just peeling back the layers and getting that intimacy going and getting the connection happening again. Because that's hard when you've got a little one there. Because I know, like for myself and a lot of mums, it's actually usually the sex moves to the bottom of the pile for a fair while because you're like mama bear and you're all around your child and nothing gets in the way, and so partner really moves down in the pecking order. But I think also when women have babies now, we go out and we plan we do a birth plan of what we'd like our birth to look like, but nobody ever talks about after birth plan. What does that look like? I wrote a blog on that years ago. God,
Hmm.
long time ago. Like, okay, we've had the baby. What's the next chapter? How do we integrate baby into our relationship and still have time for us? So they're things that are really, I think, a great idea. It doesn't mean it goes to plan, but if you have those intentions, like my birth plan did not go to plan at all. It went from a home birth to a very big long ordeal in hospital.
Yeah.
But you have the plan there to guide you, and then you can adjust as you need to go. So I think it's really important to have a plan after baby comes. So that's something that I'm really recommending for anyone that's having more babies to at least look at that, see what's happened in the current relationship with when the child came in, and look at how you can work that better next time around. And
Yeah.
it could be just a matter of him cuddling you while you're breastfeeding. Something really simple as
Yeah.
that, but that's so intimate and so connected, and it's keeping you two really close, keeping him involved in it because it does become a bit separate. Oh, I've got to feed the baby. Why can't he be involved in some way? Holding you, supporting you while you're breastfeeding or something. Just doesn't have to be every time, but just bringing that in, I think, makes a really big difference.
Yeah, I love this after birth plan because that's something that I've helped clients with in the past where it's like they're pregnant and they know they're going to need help, but when they're needing help, it's hard to think of things that they need done. And so I've given them the homework assignment to write down the things that you do. And then when the baby's born, you can hand the list to your husband and say, hey, anything off this list would be amazing.
That too is just general household chores,
Yeah.
100%.
Because a lot of
Like,
times men don't like look around the house and think, oh, I need to dust and I need to put the dishes away and I need to, empty. Like they don't always just look around and see the stuff. Like
no,
they
100%.
need to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And we can support them that way, but also having this reconnection plan. I was somebody who was like waiting for the permission from the doctor and I was ready to go. But I know that that's not always the case and that the 6 week mark doesn't actually mean that you're ready. Just because the OB clears you doesn't technically mean that you're ready.
No, and it can be really daunting. Gosh, I can even remember with us when we had the first sex afterwards. It was very he was terrified because he didn't want to hurt me. Um, but we just went very cautiously and very slowly. And I think that's really important. Like we've got to remember our hormones have changed because we've given birth and we're potentially breastfeeding. Maybe we're not breastfeeding, but our hormones have still gone through a lot of change. And so it's so important that we're lubricated to receive penetration. And and a lot of times, like I've worked with women where they get the constant nagging, which is not cool. And so they go, okay, well, we'll have sex, and they relent, but they're not ready.
Mhm.
And if they've had stitches as well, like, the whole thing, and that they don't orgasm, they're not lubricating, it's not going to be fun. So what they need to have those conversations with their partner so their partner knows, because if the partner knows that's happening, they don't want to go and have sex with you if you're not enjoying it. Very few men would want to do that. Um, so you need to be able to have those sort of conversations because these things can happen. I remember having a lady come to see me because she, and it's also, sorry, I just backtrack a little bit, remembering what happens when you're having the birth. Like sometimes the doctors and the nurses say horrific things they should not be saying.
Mhm.
This one young woman came to me and they said, oh, I had like third-degree um, tears or some S. That's what they said. So she was terrified to have anything to do with her genitals.
Mhm.
And then the husband push push push, she relented and it was horrible and she wasn't ready and all of that. And she came to me baby in arms, and so I do a process where I actually examine internally to see what the pain levels are like. And I'd said to her, have you looked at the stitches? She's going, no, no, no. So I've just really casually handed her a mirror and I said, oh, well, why are you getting ready? And because we set up a little sort of bed on the floor so the baby could lie next to her on the floor rather than being up on the table. I said, oh, here's the mirror. Just have a little look, like really casual, no pressure, because she'd not looked at all since because she was terrified.
Yeah.
So we did the mapping and it was definitely pain points. And so, but she relaxed into it and then we worked on that and we healed it, we healed that situation. Um, so we have to be aware of what information comes in at us as well. And sometimes doctors and nurses say things that they really shouldn't be saying. They've got no awareness that they've said something like that.
Yeah. And because to them it's medical and like it's not,
It's
I mean,
business.
I was told I ripped from A to Z and I was like, that sounds horrific, but I didn't have the the self-consciousness about it.
Yeah. Whereas
And
she did.
she did, and there's so many intricacies
Yeah.
to relationships, to sex in general, to how what we've been through. Like it's there is definitely no one size fits all.
No, 100% not. So it's about, you know, really just having the conversations beforehand, looking at, not being, I guess, not being a drama person about it, being pragmatic and practical, could go and look at this is the negatives that could happen after birth. So if these negatives happen, then we need to be prepared, and this is what we how we can respond and how we can deal with it. But hopefully, none of that's going to happen. I mean, I know for me, I didn't expect to be having a 44-hour labour and have every drug under the sun given to me when I went transferred to hospital from having a home birth. Didn't expect that at all, and wasn't prepared for postnatal depression, which went undiagnosed. So we have to sort of find our way to navigate. And I certainly didn't know my way to navigate out of that when I had my daughter, 32 years ago, that's for sure. So it's a changing world. And it's like, oh, if I'd known all that then, but I didn't. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that not only do we want to be proactive, but as much as you can before the fact, we want to be proactive after the fact too, when we notice there's a problem. Because I think a lot of what we want to do is just sweep things under the rug. And
And it's like when we do that with anything in our sexual relationship, I liken it to, we have the elephant in the room, that there's something there and we don't talk about it like it's sort of on the rug, but this is like the elephant in the bed. I've got a great graphic that goes with that. Two people sitting in bed with an elephant in between them. It's really
yeah,
cute. That's the truth, because if it's not discussed, it's never going to get resolved. If the partner's got erectile problems and it's just put up with and nothing's talked about it, it'll go on for 2, 5, 10, 15 years before it reaches boiling point. It's like, well, you have to have the conversation. If it's something that's upsetting you, then you've got to look at it. You need to go and perhaps see someone to work out what's going on with the erections if we're not having good sex or successful penetration. So there's lots of things that don't get talked about
yeah,
still. And it's like, I just go, you have sex with your partner, you're intimate. You can sometimes go to the toilet with your partner in the same room. You can't talk about the problems. That just baffles me.
yeah,
Brush your teeth together, like all those
right.
really personal things,
Yeah,
but you can't
for
talk
sure.
about the problems of the sex or whatever's going on in the relationship. We're not taught how to do any of this stuff. We all just fumble along merrily along the way, thinking that we still. Well, I don't know about the generation behind me, but my generation was you're going to find the knight on shining armor and live in a picket house, white picket house, and you're going to live happily ever after. And that's just so far from the truth. It's not funny. So I don't know what today's kids are growing up as their reality, but that was my reality for sure. And you just don't get taught about how to be in a relationship, how to communicate, how to have that conscious relating.
And I think the most important thing as a parent is to model for your children. I just heard something very fascinating that couples fight in public, but they repair in private. And so children see the fighting, but they don't see the repairing. They
Oh
don't see
wow.
the making up. And so then all we know how to do is fight. We don't know how to make up.
Yeah, that's
And
sense.
so hearing that, made sure that my son sees like, we don't fight a lot, but when we do, that he knows like this is the conversation that we had afterwards, and this is how we share it. Like I do that with him, and he does it with me too, where if I have an emotional reaction to something that I didn't mean to, then I explain to him why.
Yeah,
What made me have that reaction. And now, and it's so much fun when he comes back and says it to me. It's
yeah,
like,
because he's learning, and it's a great way to be. So we can't monitor our behaviours and reactions all the time, but it's about recognizing when we do something wrong or react in a way that's not healthy, to acknowledge it and take ownership of it and speak it into the space. And I think in the society that we're in today, it's such a next sort of society that people don't take ownership anymore. They don't take responsibility for their actions. It's really important to do that.
is there a book that's been instrumental in your development journey, personal development journey?
Oh, look, so many books. There's nothing that I can really narrow down. Part of instrumental in my journey was doing a shamanic Native American Indian teaching, which stems from the States actually, called the Sweet Medicine Sundance Path. And that was a real education in mind, body, spirit, and sexuality. And that was quite phenomenal. And I remember going to that where I didn't realize it was tantric practices that we're doing. That's how naive and sort of on some levels innocent that I was. But there's these weekends where we would go and we'd do these sexual practices. And, the first weekend was around our sexual relationship to ourselves. And then the next weekend was our sexual relationship to being in a relationship. And there's different levels and things in that. And that sort of really opened me up. And I remember sitting in that initially, and there was this woman, an Aussie woman, who was living in the States. And at the time, she would have been 60 with her red lippy. And she was so empowered in who she was as a sexual woman. I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, I want to be like Mookie when I'm her age. And I have to say that I have become that. And I've got the red lippy as well, not intentionally, but I've become that. So I'd say not so much the book, but the teachings probably really guided me into doing this work. That was definitely the start point. And other than that, just I wrote a book. So I will say my book, which is there. Oh, you probably can't see it. There we go. So it's Empowered Conscious Sexuality from Prude to Pleasure. That's really my book. It's been out for 2 years. It was the #1 bestseller on Amazon in about 5 categories, and maintained that for about a month, which is really unusual.
Yeah.
And it's really my journey of how I got into the work. So it starts with all of that sort of spiritual stuff, that little things just dropping in here and there, and I'm going, I don't know what that means, and sort of putting it aside, and it all sort of coming together really. So it's my journey, and then it also goes through all the different practices that I use, the modalities, go into much more depth about them. I go in around and share different testimonials and how certain situations that has helped in a certain situation. And there's lots of practices through the book if you're single or in a relationship as well that you can do as a start point. So I wanted to make it semi-educational as well.
Very cool. Congratulations on your bestseller and I love the title. I'll just say that too. And then where can our listeners find you?
They can find me on Instagram and Facebook, all the usual places. Well, they're the main places. Intimacy Whisperer, and my website's my name, paulineryeland.com. I've got heaps of information in there. I've got lots of podcasts all my podcasts go up on that I do with people are up on there as well. And of course, I share them once they become live. But yeah, there's lots of information there. I've got a free ebook. How to 8 tips for better intimacy and better communication. So that's a free ebook people can purchase. I've got other ebooks there and different things on my website that you can download. So yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Pauline, for being a guest on the podcast and for sharing all of your wisdom. And it was a lovely conversation and getting me out of my shell a little bit and
Good.
talking about it.
You might be sitting back later and going, oh, we should have talked about this and this. I'm more than happy to come back and chat again if you ever want. It's always, my thing is more about the more we talk about it and keep the conversations going, it opens up other thoughts and other ideas and, oh, what about this and what about that? So everyone is a little bit different on how they approach it. So I'm happy to always have a chat.
Absolutely. Sounds good. All right. We'll have, again, thank you for being here. And there will be another episode of Imperfect Momming for you all coming next week. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AlysiaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. And until we meet again, keep healing.